to talk to you. How do we know if these rich people are giving money because they care, or because it just helps them financially, or doesn't it matter either way?
Well, it does matter in one sense, and that is whether the charity is a legitimate charity or a bogus charity. And I think one of the troubles, many troubles with this policy, but one of them is that it's been, basically the Chancellor has in effect tarred a whole load of people with the same brush. There are some bogus charities, I think, based in Romania and one or two other places like that, which ought to be challenged. But you don't challenge those charities who seem to be there to sort of help people avoid tax, or evade tax, actually. That's not really avoidance, it's evasion. You shouldn't tar everybody with the same brush. Somebody typically in Britain, I mean, the easiest way to look at this is to actually look at let me create a sort of example for you. Now, I'm going to make the numbers enormous to make the point obvious. Let's imagine you've got somebody who's earning $3 million a year. The Chancellor, Mr. Osborne, has focused on over $1 million a year. So let's say that somebody's earning $3 million a year, and he gives $2 million of it, given you've just been talking about smoking, to a cancer charity, right? So he gives $2 million, let's say, to something like the HRI, Daisy Pill, whatever, something like that. That leaves him with $1 million. He then pays 50% tax on the remaining $1 million, so he ends up paying $500,000 tax, and he's nevertheless helped out a charity to the tune of $2 million. Now, that you tell me, is he doing that to save tax? I don't think so. I think he's doing it because he believes in the charity, maybe because somebody in his family died of cancer or whatever reason, but he believes in the charity.
So why are these people threatening to pull out then, since the budget?
Well, because they would effectively have to pay tax on what they give to the charity as well. In other words, let's take my example: $3 million. He has to pay tax on all of it, so he has to pay $1.5 million tax. He hasn't got $2 million left to give to the charity. He's got $1.5 million, which, and if he keeps his standard of living at the same level, he then gives all he's got left to give is $1 million. So straight away, you've halved the effective amount of money he can give. Whatever he determines to do is another matter. We don't know that. We don't know whether people will do what they've said or not. But he's got half as much money to give away. And what's happening is the Treasury is saying, effectively behaving as though it's their money. They're saying, oh, this is outrageous. He's giving less money. Well, that's sort of daft, really. And they're using bogus numbers. They're taking the money, the $500,000 tax he's paid, and dividing it by the whole amount of money, $3 million, and saying, oh, that's less than 20%. Well, yes, it is, but it's not less than 20% of how much he has to spend after he's given the charity money away. So the idea, I say, it's quite complicated because.
It might be complicated, but you explained it probably the most simple and straightforward way that I've heard since this story started. So
forgive the big numbers, but
no,
but it makes the point easy, you see.
But at the end of the day, I mean, do you think George Osborne is wrong? First of all,
yes, I do. I think the policy is wrong. I think it's ill thought through. I think it's ill thought through in terms of straightforward effect on the way people will behave. I also think it's very ill thought through in that it's tarred a lot of people who do very, very good things. They've got lots of money, but there's no sin in this world of being rich, but they're using their wealth for a good cause, and they have been tarred as people who are just trying to avoid paying tax, which in most cases, not in every case, but in most cases, is pure unmitigated nonsense and really unfair.
But the intention behind it was a good one, and that was to stop people avoiding or evading, whichever the right word is, tax.
Yeah, but
and isn't that just what we should be doing?
That's what they're trying to do. And about 12 years ago, I used to chair the Public Accounts Committee, as you remember, and we actually looked at charities and the Charity Commission. We were very critical of the Charity Commission not being tough enough on policing charities to make sure they're legitimate. And there were some changes made. And it may be they need to make more changes. But that's the way to do it. Shut down the loophole, shut down the thing that's making a mockery of the system, which is the bogus charities, and actually then allow people to do what they ought to do or want to do to help society. After all, David Cameron made a great thing of the big society. He's gone on about it at great length. People often don't understand it, but one thing they do understand is a big part of it is using charities to advance good causes, whether it's cancer or whether it's child poverty or whatever it might be, to deal with social ills through charities. And I have to say that actually the charities are better at dealing with these ills sometimes than the government is. If I had to give £1 million away either to the government or to a charity to do something like, let's say, deal with cancer, I'd give it to a charity first.
And I know you were being patient and listening there to our friend from the Charities Aid Foundation. He was saying there is a lack of evidence for it. Presumably you'd agree with that.
Yes, I mean, there is some evidence, but as I say, the evidence tends to be about foreign charities in countries whose laws are perhaps not as tight as ours. And one simple thing Mr. Osborne could have done was simply say, okay, we will only give, as it were, an easy buy to people who are investing in UK charities, because we know the UK Charity Commission works reasonably well. You might want to tighten it up, but it works reasonably well. Foreign charities have to get explicit approval. That instantly would cut the size of this problem without assaulting the legitimate charities.
So these charities in places like Romania, you could say you can't give money abroad, but you can give money to charities in this country. That's a way of
before you give it abroad, you've got to get the charity scheme approved. We're probably not allowed by European law to exclude foreign charities, but just say abroad, you have to have them approved first. And we consider the Charity Commission to be an approval, a bona fide approval process. Anywhere else, we have to clear it first. Bear in mind, out of 160,000 charities, the Treasury's only objected to 100 out of 160,000. So they're not doing this properly. They're not. The people who you should be looking at are HMRC, who have done an awful job on this. And this is part of the problem. We are paying the price of their weakness. I sometimes I'm open-mouthed about this because I have campaigned, you may not know, against the lack of transparency the Treasury's shown over people like Vodafone and Goldman Sachs and people like that who appear to have quite sweetheart deals which cost the taxpayer billions. I'm not getting that wrong. Billions of pounds. So they've been let off billions of pounds of taxes. We know nothing about the details of that. If they really want to get more money in, start with that. Don't start with people who are doing the right thing.
Last question. £50,000. Should there be a cap? Should there be a figure at all, or would you not have a cap?
Personally, I wouldn't have a cap. I'd do it the other way around. As I say, I'd fix the bogus charities rather than this way. But if you're going to have a cap, it's got to be I don't know, half of people's income or higher. I mean, the Americans. When I walk to work in the morning, I walk past the Tate Gallery. Given by Henry Saxon Tate. I used to walk past the Tate Library in South London. There are two of them, given by great philanthropists, and they're still there today. In America, when I went to Harvard, went to Baker Library, on the wall there were great plaques covered in the names of benefactors, out of whose money they pay for scholarships and improvement in the thing. That's the most expensive university in the world. So that's what we'd want to encourage. And we won't do it if we are over-restrictive of it. I mean, if you really want to put a half limit, half of your salary. But the raw truth is that's still going to stop some money going to, say, cancer charities or wherever it might be. And we will end up losing by it. Not me personally, not you personally, but let's say somebody who needs treatment for cancer at some point in the future would end up losing by it. And that's not really the aim of government. It shouldn't be the aim of government policy.
Very interesting to hear you talk. Thank you for explaining it for us so simply as well. Mr. Davis, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.